Homer at the Bat, one of my favorite Simpsons episodes growing up. Originally airing in February of 1992, it tells the story of the nuclear power plant softball team going on to win the Springfield City Championship, with the help of a few ringers. While Darryl Strawberry was the only one who actually played, stars such as Ken Griffey Jr., Roger Clemens, and Wade Boggs were all paid by Mr. Burns to play for the team in the championship against rival Shelbyville. However, the players in the episode were not Mr. Burns' first choice. In true fashion of someone with the social security number of two,
Damn, Roosevelt.
Mr. Burns' original team of ringers included players ranging from 1860 to 1937. When informed all of them are dead, Mr. Burns tasked Smithers to
Find me some good players, living players. Scour the professional ranks, the American League, the National League, the Negro Leagues.
I'm on my way, sir.
That brings up the question, which team is better? The team Mr. Burns originally proposed, or the team Smithers put together with current players, in 1992 anyways? Going to find that out after the intro. As we've done in the past, we're going to be using Out of the Park to pit these two teams against each other. As far as building the teams, have to set up a few ground rules. First, a bunch of players on Mr. Burns' team never played during the same time period, so we need to figure out what version of those players to pick. I decided to go with whatever year their highest WAR season was on Baseball Reference as the year to pick. For instance, in the case of shortstop Honus Wagner, that would be 1908. So I'll import the 1908 version of Honus Wagner in Out of the Park. But there's an issue. As Smithers says,
Your right fielder has been dead for 130 years.
Damnation!
Jim Creighton died in 1862, so long ago that the Civil War was going on, and a full 14 years before the National League was even founded. There's no available stats for him, and he doesn't even exist in Out of the Park. So we need to find a replacement right fielder. I wanted to find a player that played close to the same time period, so essentially a player that played during the founding of the National League, and also wanted a player that was one of the league's best. Settled finally on Jim O'Rourke, who first started playing in 1872. Now how to handle Smithers' team, who all played during 1992. You'd probably think I'd just take the 1992 version of these players, but this project originally started as simulating the normal 1992 season with one team made up of those players to see how well they dominated. What I found out was disheartening. With the exception of Griffey and Clemens, almost all of those players peaked between 1985 and 1988. And by 1992, a lot of them were shells of their former selves. In the real 1992 season, Scioscia, Mattingly, Sachs, Boggs, Canseco, and Strawberry, 2/3 of the entire team, only combined for 6.5 WAR. Griffey hadn't even hit his peak yet, and Clemens was the only player that was in the midst of their domination of the league. There's also the issue that with only 9 players, how do you fill out the rest of the roster? Needless to say, that simulation was a bit of a failure with the team going 71-91. Determined that only a simulation between the two teams of ringers, where both teams only have a 9-player roster, would be the best apples-to-apples comparison and be much more interesting. But with Mr. Burns' ringers, we're talking about them at their peak form. If we took Smithers' ringers in their 1992 version, Mr. Burns' ringers would absolutely mop the floor with them in the simulation. Therefore, we're going to go apples-to-apples and take every player during their peak season. With that, I give you the starting lineup for Mr. Burns' ringers. At catcher, 1908 Gabby Street. First base, 1886 Cap Anson. Second base, 1906 Nap Lajoie. Shortstop, 1908 Honus Wagner. Third base, 1923 Pie Traynor. Left field, 1912 Shoeless Joe Jackson. Center field, 1920 Harry Hooper. Right field, 1884 Jim O'Rourke. And pitcher, 1909, Mordecai Three-Fingered Brown. And for Smithers' ringers, catcher, 1985, Mike Scioscia. First base, 1986, Don Mattingly. Second base, 1986, Steve Sachs. Shortstop, 1989, Ozzie Smith. Third base, 1985, Wade Boggs. Left field, 1990, Darryl Strawberry. Center field, 1996, Ken Griffey Jr. Right field, 1986 Jose Canseco, and pitcher, 1997 Roger Clemens. The format will be a game every 5 days, so the pitchers are fully rested, starting on January 1st going to December 31st of one calendar year, which comes to 72 total games played. With that, the teams are set. It's time to start the simulation montage. Well, Mr. Burns had done it. The power plant had won it, with Roger Clemens clucking all the while. Mike Sosa's tragic illness made us smile, while Wade Boggs lay unconscious on the barroom tile. We're talking softball, from Maine to San Diego, talking softball. Mattingly and Canseco, Ken Griffey's grotesquely swollen jaw, Steve Sachs with his running with the law. We're talking Homer, Ozzie and the Straw. We're talking softball, from Maine to San Diego, talking softball. Mattingly and Canseco, talking softball. Final results: Mr. Burns' Ringers goes 47-25 to dominate the simulation. As a double check, I ran the sim a couple times. The second time, Mr. Burns' team went 41-32. And the third time, I only ran half the simulation, but Mr. Burns' team was 21-17. The other sims were pointing towards Mr. Burns' team being better anyway. Interesting note, in all the sims, Roger Clemens had a lower FIP and a higher WAR than Mordecai Three Finger Brown, but had a higher ERA in all three as well. While Smithers' team hit more home runs, Mr. Burns' team hit to contact, put balls in play, and BABIP'd Clemens to death. You can see Clemens' .332 batting average on balls in play versus Brown's .268 is a massive difference. In a normal league, these differences would tend to even out a little more, but in this league, not only was Mr. Burns' team defense much better, especially at the corner outfield spots and second base, but Clemens is also facing these dead ball hitters that prioritize putting the ball in play, while Brown is facing more sluggers trying to mash home runs. One of the biggest differences is Mr. Burns' team had 99 triples versus 18 from Smithers' squad, while home runs heavily favored Smithers at 46-13. Minus home runs, though, if you go across the board, almost every stat favors the old-fashioned team. Another observation, Smithers' team was somewhat close 8 months into the sim at a 21-27 record after 48 games, but went 4-20 the last 4 months of the season to end with that dismal record. Steve Sachs, of all people, had the highest OPS on Team Smithers, while Ken Griffey Jr. absolutely underperformed what I was expecting. Not a single player on that squad finished with an OPS over 100 either. Shoeless Joe Jackson was by far the league MVP in every simulation I ran. One possible reason is Shoeless Joe has very drastic splits when it comes to lefty versus righty pitchers. And since Clemens was a righty, 100% of Joe's at-bats would be against a righty. It really played to his strengths. Just looking at the raw ratings, he had the best ratings against right-handed pitchers of any of the other position players. Another oddity, the computer manager for Mr. Burns decided to start Cap Anson at catcher, Jim O'Rourke at first base, and Gabby Street in right field. I can't say I understand that because the game rates Street as the better defensive catcher than Anson. Anson is the better first baseman than O'Rourke, and O'Rourke is the better corner outfielder than Gabby Street, but it seemed to have worked for them, so whatever. So that pretty much sums it up. Out of the park sims are pretty fun and can be powerful. I'm already thinking of doing a few more, such as a league where each team is made up fully of a clone of a two-way player, to see which two-way player comes out on top. Or a league made up of each all-decade team to see which decade wins. Endless possibilities. So if there's a historical simulation you want to see, I'm up for suggestions. Here's my mandatory like and subscribe plead. I hate saying it, but I love when you do it, and it really helps. Maybe click on another video here. Maybe leave a comment. It's all appreciated. I never know how to end these. I need a signature sign-off or something. How about catch you on the flip side? No, that's terrible. Bye.